Advertising, communications, and branding provide the colors and sounds that have become a seamless part of our modern lifestyles, the backdrop to our present-day environment. All we know, think, and feel about the food we eat, the corporate structures around us, the places from where we shop, and the products we choose to consume is largely based on the messages and images crafted by this industry. The sector is also big business. Global advertising agencies' industry revenue alone is expected to grow 4.3% to $109.4 billion this year. The global economic recession only slowed but could not fully extinguish the continued growth of this industry. Locally, however, the industry is not quite there yet, and Botswana witnessed its first ever advertising awards this June. The event succeeded in drawing the nation's attention for a moment to the producers of the creative content we see through all types of platforms on a daily basis. We were fortunate to get first-hand responses from some of the international judges that were flown in to judge what was a broad body of work and get an idea from the industry experts how the work produced by our local advertising industry compares to that of other countries.
I think there were two or three goals that were won last night at the awards, and there were clear winners, and what I really liked was that those awards that won gold stood a chance of winning gold either at the Big Loerie Awards in South Africa or winning awards abroad. Simple, very strong ideas that related to the brand. However, I did feel that there were some bits of work that it's a lot of retail in Botswana. It's always selling hard. Lots of price points, price tags, etc. And it just kind of lacked concept and a little bit of creativity. It was just a layout. It lacked a strong idea. But yeah, overall, I think it was a really, really good, rigorous session. You could tell that people have put effort and time into making some of those pieces, because the winners deserved what they got. Really, really cool stuff.
Work in Botswana is really good. I think, the perception, and it might be a local perception, the perception is our work is not that good, but it's a fallacy. I think, the work that we saw, all the judges agree, we were all pleasantly surprised. Like anywhere else in the world, because I've judged, quite a bit. I saw work that reflect what happens globally in terms of trends. Whenever people enter work for awards, what happens is, the top 2% will always stand out. The rest will be kind of wishy-washy work. And that trend was repeated here. So the really good work stood out and the really bad work was chucked out.
Both of our commentators in this segment are from beyond our borders, but Taelo Emmanuel made a convincing argument as to their eligibility to weigh in on the industry, as many of its challenges are shared.
The first thing we have to remember is that advertising functions within an environment, as in it's part of the bigger business sphere. If you've got a thriving economy, it's important for you to have a thriving ad industry. The two go hand in glove, because people produce products, and then people who manage those brands or products want the consumer to know about them. And the only way for them to know is through advertising and marketing. So you'll see that it's pointless to say we need a thriving ad industry when there are no products to advertise. But that's the first thing. If you've got products, then it means that you can have a thriving industry. And Botswana does have a very small population. As a result, you can't expect your industry to be as big as, say, in South Africa or, say, the US. You have a smaller population size. But having said that, creativity has very little to do with that. I think it's up to the references that your consumer has. If your consumer has the appetite for work that is creative, brands will produce it, clients will want it, and agencies obviously will do it.
The positive feedback from our evaluators was encouraging, almost as inspiring as the David and Goliath feat performed by a local young agency at the awards. A clear example of how good, strong, homegrown ideation is possible. Join us after the break as we speak to the founders of Design Surgery to hear what local practitioners have to say. Welcome back to First Issues, as we speak to the masterminds behind Design Surgery, a local agency that stood tall amongst both internationally affiliated and local advertising and communication agencies at the recent ACA Awards by scooping 8 major awards, making them the biggest overall winners. Our conversation with its young co-founders revealed that a special mix of a perseverance, a focus on excellence, and a belief that local can also be great made for a winning formula. Both Thabani Nyati and Tebogo Sekhe are young learned creatives with more than a decade's experience in local and international creative industries. The question on the lips of those not in the know after the agency's big win was, who are Design Surgery? Tebogo and Thabani fill us in.
Design Surgery ke company ya Botswana, mo Botswana. It started ka 2009, and it's a brainchild of 2 creative people, be myself, Tebogo Sekhe, and Thabani Nyati. The bigger vision is a company ha Botswana ba ka e godisa ya hola to a level whereby we would be able to export it to the international market. The same way, I would say we are inspired by companies like Bochopis, Boletsego, and other companies selling where they've started smaller in Botswana and ultimately became bigger companies selling where they are accessed from different countries. That's the whole vision that we have as Design Surgery.
Thabani says that they believe that they are the missing cog in the local advertising industry. What exactly does he mean by that?
An industry like that is a very sensitive approach that we give to the industry as Design Surgery. So you find that most of the time, concepts that have been flighting don't necessarily resonate with its clients, with basically the consumers out there. You find that for the longest, we've been consuming international or foreign concepts. There are big brands that come from local, and then big brands that come from across the borders. And you find that most of the time, we try to communicate our own brands via foreign concepts. It doesn't mean that, I'll give you an example, it doesn't mean that a joke that does well, let's say in Nigeria, for example, will sit well with the Motswana. So conceptually, you might find that those are the other elements that we now look into. Number one, concept, don't get me wrong. A great concept has to apply globally, locally, regionally, and internationally. But generally, there is that element of saying this is a local concept, a locally brewed concept. So setting locally was not just by a coincidence. It was well planned and is working pretty well at this point in time after 4 years in the industry.
There are obvious benefits to partnering with and working under a bigger and better established agency name. What realities resulted from Design Surgery's deliberate choice to stay both local and independent?
The first question you get asked, Wena Olemang, how many years do you have in the industry? What human resource do you have? What ABCs and Ds do you have? What value are you going to add to me? I can see this is a great idea, but is it sustainable? Are you not operating from the boot of your car? So, bigger picture, the hard entry side has always been, I would say, an Achilles heel, but at the end of the day, what makes it work to our advantage is that it makes you work harder to prove to your clients that, you know what, I can do it and it's very doable. So international affiliation, like you're asking, the issue of saying I'm attached to so and so, it's instant fame, but is it sustainable? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. Is it sustainable? does it address exactly my beliefs? Because we believe starting this agency is more about having the right and positive impact to Botswana and to the international market. But through those affiliations, I can make that quick buck. But does it change the lives of Botswana? Does it make a young Botswana now believe more in themselves? Read again, I've got what it takes. Same thing. It's just like if I was to say, Design Surgery International, that international can work for me for 2 minutes, but come delivery time, that always comes because we are ideas people. At the end of the day, our ideas are going to be out there. Do my ideas as so and so international, do they still maintain international standards, and do they address our local people? So at the end of the day, I would say international affiliation is more short-lived than sustainable. So sustainability is based on, it's ingrained, it's our thing. Proudly, and I love being that. And I've got what it takes. Bring on anyone, I'm global. And I'll do it good and even better than my competition.
Tebogo alludes to a need to educate clients. What could the corporate world need to be educated on with regards to the commissioning of communication and branding strategies and tools?
I would say in Botswana, there is a fine line between creative agencies, students, people who are doing it as a hobby, and even people who are just, have the interest in creativity. One thing that I want to emphasize is that advertising is a profession. And we went out for training, and I don't want to believe that as creative people, as professionals, we are supposed to be scaled down to people to be put in the same scale as people who are doing it as a hobby, because those people that are just having fun. And us, we are serious about this thing. We want to change lives. We want to position brands. We want to sell products. It's not a joke. It's really serious. It's business. For us, we take it like as a business transaction, as opposed to a hobby or a joke. I don't know how I can explain it.
Judges at the recent ACA Advertising Awards were of the view that Botswana advertising has a decent body of work, but that there is a marked lack in concept work, as we saw at the beginning of the show. In our guest's view, does the blame lie with those who commission the work or those who produce it?
I would say, as a growing industry, there is a lot of teething problems in the process. There's a lot of confusions from both client end and the supplier end, which is the advertising agencies. From the client perspective, I would say, to a large extent, you find that there's a few specialized people who understand the whole intrinsics and embodiment of marketing. So when it's like that, the marketing department from the client side and the people from the creative industry are supposed to work as a team for the better good, which is the brand, basically. If you approach me with your brand and say, this is where I want you to put my brand, it's something you come to me with that trust that, you know what, I've got what it takes to put your brand on the higher level. But now you find that in the interim, there's competition. It's my idea over your idea, but you came to me for an idea. Don't get me wrong, as the client, to a very large extent, you understand your internal processes better than I do. So now, it's now on me to how best to take it out. And then, from the client perspective, I would say, to a large extent, it's still that lack of knowledge as to like having the right people and also understanding your part as a marketing person as to what is it exactly that I am supposed to do. And then on the flip side, which is the creative side, which is the agency side. There's this belief that once I set up an office and have a few beautiful computers, automatically I'm a fully fledged agency with people with all kinds of posts. In truth, it doesn't work like that. Truth is, you have to have the right team with the right attitude and right education. And more than anything, we cannot run away from that. Hard work, hard work. We always try to cut corners. We don't take our time to interrogate what exactly the client wants. And that at the end of the day, that's why you find that ordinary ideas are churned out there. And I believe, to a large extent, people don't take their time to brainstorm, to research, to understand the market and see what competition does against the brand that you are supposed to be representing. So at the end of the day, from both sides, there's still a lot of work to be done. And interacting more with the international community, and also the beautiful part, element online services that we basically, which are basically on your fingertips. So it's very easy to see what's trending out, say, let's say in Brazil. If we're talking of, let's say, a perfume, or what is it that's the latest musically, or in terms of clothing, in terms of food, that gives us an advantage against what was happening in the old school. So we must use that to our advantage. But that doesn't mean that we have to be lazy and just copy and paste, which is what many people believe, whereby I put a smiling face and attach information next to it. Is that a concept? That's what we have to think about as well.
This growing company appears to have taken the more difficult, unbeaten path. And Thabani says he was packed and ready to head for South Africa before Tebogo called him with a proposition to start their own agency. Next, we get insight into why these two insist on battling it out here instead of looking to further their careers in more established and lucrative industries outside our borders.
We live in a very competitive world, and time doesn't wait for us. So the biggest challenge that we have, I would say, at this point in time is time, actually. We are so under pressure to attain so much within a short space of time. And in that process, you find that we overtake ourselves in the process to try and match with the current demands. And that entails me going across the borders to establish or to attain, whether it's skill or financial gain. And the biggest challenge that would say in the process that we face is that leads to a lot of brain drain. I would say Africa, Botswana, contextually, Botswana has got a lot of geniuses. We get people who are groomed and trained, who are groomed locally. They go for training, whether it's local or overseas. And then international institutes offer them lucrative and very enticing packages. And guess what? At the end of the day, you hear that so-and-so is working for the World Bank, so-and-so, which is fantastic. It also puts us on the global map. But if you look at the bigger picture, if in terms of developing Botswana, what does that do for our local brand as Botswana? It takes away the cream of what Botswana would have gained. It benefits other entities, other continents, and for how long is that going to happen? So we would rather go the harder route and show that, you know what, numbers don't mean nothing. It doesn't mean that if we're a population of such a size, it means that everything now has to happen on the outside world. Let's start local. Growth is always bound to happen as long as we do things with passion and do them proper. And basically, we believe on that level is that, you know what, with passion, enthusiasm, and the positive energy, you will never go wrong. And that's self-entrenched. And I and my business partner, we believed when we met, we knew basically his drive and my drive. And that drive got us to say, you know what, let's put together creative minds that are very, very energized, because more than anything, nothing beats positive energy and hard work. Because biggest challenge is that, you know what, we see things happening outside. We believe that the grass is greener out there. Actually, not all the time. Not all the time. I would say the majority of the time. Imagine if now you're outside of Botswana. You don't have the freedom of being at home and doing things the way you would. You know, whereby you freely walk, you don't get asked for anything. But when you're outside the world, you are conforming to the outside structures. But when you are here, you have that advantage of using your being local to your biggest advantage. So that always, that is one of the drivers to say, you know what, let's do it here. It's very doable and you can take it to the uppermost level.
I would say unlike other people out there, our vision is slightly different in the sense that we believe design has to change people's lives. And for us, we believe we have to change the lives of our own people before we can think of other people. Of course, the time is gonna come when we are gonna export our brand to different people, to different, across the borders. But we believe we have to start from home and then we grow and expand to other countries.
We hope we have helped you appreciate what a belief in local products and talent can produce. From me, Nametso Sibina, the team behind First Issues, and our sponsors First National Bank, we wish you a good night and pleasant viewing.